So Sunride itself is like microgrid management and balancing. So it's a software that helps microgrid operators to sell electricity basically within their microgrids on site. So we were facing lots of metering issues, and so we did a partnership with an independent metering company called Discovergy. And so I'm working with them also a lot, and sometimes also for them. Half a year ago, I co-founded another initiative that is like building a bit on top of the experiences we had with the microgrid balancing things, and that's like investigating, I'd say, blockchain technologies for energy sector. And so these are the three main sort of vectors. Most of my time, or like I'd say maybe 50% or 60% is dedicated to blockchain exploration. That's open source work, so it's more and a bit consulting, and so that's more like creating an abstraction, I would say, of the electricity market that other people can also, or other companies then can also use. Yeah? And the rest is split between Discovergy, that metering company, that we are working together to set up microgrids, and then Sunride itself. And I think what Sunride is at the moment is just provides a software solution basically that integrates then very, very seamlessly and nicely with these meters and the metering. And when the blockchain stuff matures a bit more, I think I will turn Sunride into an end-to-end utility that basically also then takes care of actually selling and supplying the power and the heat. Probably, but like it's not too bad because it's private property, right? So it's like sort of limited what goes on behind the meter. The overall electricity market is not set up for these small scale things. Yeah. But then selling on site is just complicated for the balancing. But that's like complicated on a physical level. So it's not these things are not really regulated anyways. It's just complicated to do it proper because you have different power sources, different consumers, and you have to balance everything at the same time. And if you want to do it precisely, also like maybe the exact distribution between who consumed how much solar power, then you have to do it in very short time intervals, the whole balancing. So that's what we are helping automate. So it's very, very focused, boutique. The projects, like these microgrid projects, are interesting for particular reason. It's because they, like when you have a reasonably complex microgrid set up, you are living in the future already, because you have these local power sources and you balance production and consumption in real time, and you know exactly like when it's not enough and you need backup power, and you can attach a price to each individual power source. On that micro level is radically different from how the energy markets are organized, because there you have like that copper plate, like the perfect market, and it doesn't matter when you consume something, it's always the same, right? It's always like based on a mental model that you have a coal station somewhere and you're just you know putting in the stuff that burns, yeah, and creates the electricity in a linear way. And this is not true anymore when you have renewable power. There will be price at a certain time, like now electricity at a certain time of a day will have like different pricing levels based on availability and how much effort it takes to actually get a kilowatt hour where it's used. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about like how energy markets work and why they're regulated in the way they are regulated at the moment, based on the blockchain related work and like consensus systems related work. Electricity is very complex because you can't store it, right? And you always have like someone or like a group of people has to make sure that there's enough electricity in circulation to meet demand, or like everything will just implode. And so in that it's just a very complex market product. Historically, so you can't really sell a single kilowatt hour or watt hour even without having like 10 different actors like getting their dirty fingers like on it and touching it, and you sort of, and so this requires just that these market participants, these actors that keep the system running, have to act in a cohesive sort of directed way. Yeah. In the past, this sort of consensus was established like just within companies, because there were just vertically integrated companies who were owning every single segment of the value chain. So you could like just ask the guy who's sort of controlling the power station what's going on, and you knew he would lie to you, right? He had no reason. And that worked really well, tremendously well, because like just what happened on a physical level and what the energy utility, these vertical integrated companies did, it was cohesive. Like it was like users, they had no choice. It was energy communism or something, I don't know. And so you had like I guess like some macroeconomic disadvantages which led to deregulation. And so what happened now then is that it wasn't one company but multiple companies who were sort of working the stack, and the consensus had to be externalized, yeah. And so now you have consensus basically by regulation, lawmaking. That's also somewhat okay. You have, I mean, it works, yeah. The system works, it's okay, but you're increasing costs a bit, because just like there's a cost involved for all these market actors agreeing on common procedures, yeah. And so I'd say in Germany is tremendously high. These costs is, I would say, like half the electricity price at retail, and it's going to increase even more because of renewable energies and decentralization. Because you're getting like, I don't know how many companies are active in the electricity sector in Germany. Maybe it's 2,000 at the moment. It's going to be, there are 1.5 million PV installations, and it's probably 1 million actors, market participants. At the moment, these are pseudo market participants because they are basically hanging behind the feed-in tariffs. But these are going to run out. So you have like this group of like 1.5 million market actors, and it's like a wave, yeah. It's like a tsunami of market actors, and it like increases complexity tremendously, and the system is not really like prepared to really regulate that. But you have to, because these guys need to sell their power, or these installations, they will just, like when the inverter breaks down, they will just say, fuck it, yeah, if I can't sell it, or if I have to sell it for like 1 cent per kilowatt hour, I don't need to put money into these installations. And then you don't have backup power at the same time. So there's something is brewing. You need decentralized consensus mechanisms that go beyond the traditional lawmaking and the way it's done at the moment. So that's probably a very fundamental thing that needs to happen sometime, like within the next 15 years or so. I think it's mental, like just mental blocks. So maybe we start with the renewable communities. They got used to the subsidies, and they can't even imagine, I sometimes feel, a world where they actually have to sell their shit and have a like risk, right? This is totally novel to them. And I always have the feeling like I can make a calculation where I can demonstrate that photovoltaic electricity, if you set it up in the right way, delivered over the public grid, is competitive to just plain vanilla power tariffs. Just that if you think about it creatively. I sometimes feel that the renewable communities, like they are, especially like the operators of the systems, right? They are so blinded by being in this subsidy scheme that they stopped to think creatively. And so this is a huge problem, I think. because they will have to get started really, really creative when they're on the free market. And the subsidies, they will stop at some point. It can't go on forever. Something similar is true for the incumbents, the old existing players. Like it's very hard for them to, like they don't do anything unless there is a law written, right? Consensus by regulation. Like I think there is still a role in the future, also in the decentralized future, for like big utilities or whatever. But the one thing they need to get better at is like empathy, understanding what people are actually doing, what's going on behind the meters. And the world, like in the past 150 years, they stopped at the meter for them. That's a huge problem. So it's more cultural challenges than technical challenges, I think, on both sides of the table. Like. I would wish for utilities, also like the smaller ones, like the local ones, yeah, Stadtwerke and so on, to become more fault tolerant and more open for just experimentation. There's a mindset that everything, like it's an engineering mindset, or maybe it's a German mindset, I don't know, but it's like that everything has to be perfect before you start, like everything has to be figured out perfectly, perfect model. This is not possible. Like on the regulator's part, I sometimes feel that the ideology in terms of like creating perfect markets, like designing the electricity system as if it would be a perfect financial market, like that works on a copper plate, and it wouldn't make a difference to if you produce like a kilowatt hour somewhere in Flensburg or in Stuttgart or something. Yeah, like pretending that is the case is like delusional. A bit more pragmatism on our side. That's what I would wish.